Am I the a-hole for insisting my niece is co-flower girl with my fiancé's niece? Plus update. Original post. My fiancé and I are planning our wedding. She comes from a large family. She has 5 sisters. Most of them have kids. 4 of her sisters are her bridesmaids, 1 is serving as maid of honor. I come from a smaller family. Just my parents, my sister, and my niece, Bryn. Bryn is 3 years old and pretty much my best pal. I'm her godfather, and I love her to bits. I didn't care when my fiancé didn't choose my sister to be a bridesmaid, and likewise, my sister was cool with it. I did feel some sort of way because I have all 4 of my fiancé's brothers-in-law in my wedding party, at fiancé's request, but ultimately it's her side of the party so she can do what she wants. Then it came time to pick the younger roles in the wedding. Her older nephews are junior groomsmen, the younger is the ring bearer. She only has 1 niece, Aubrey, who's 4. My fiancé wants her to be the flower girl. I said that's fine, but I also want Bryn to be one. They can walk down the aisle together. It'd be super cute. Bryn loves playing with Aubrey, so they get along. My fiancé says she wants our wedding to be traditional, so there can only be 1 flower girl. I suggested Bryn could hold a sign or something while Aubrey threw flowers. My fiancé said no, she can sit with my sister and parents. At this point, I insisted and said Bryn would be flower girl. I texted my sister and asked, and she agreed. My fiancé got angry and said it's my day too. Bryn means a great deal to me and she'll be in the wedding. My fiancé and Aubrey's mom are now mad at me, saying I'm stealing Aubrey's spotlight. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Info. Are you two getting premarital counseling to do a general inventory in how you two agree or disagree on other issues? Because I have a sense that if you two did get such counseling, there would be a lot more issues uncovered. We don't have that planned. Maybe a good idea. It's a great idea. Couples before getting married really need to hash out exactly how they feel about things like money, raising kids, how to handle parents when they got older, etc. 100% pro premarital counseling. My partner and I are looking at getting married soon, and premarital counseling is part of that process. OP, not stay home. My partner and I have similarly aged nieces who will be a co-flower girls. I even have a second niece who is a smidge older who will likely also be grouped in with them, maybe blowing bubbles. It is totally normal, and for my partner and I, didn't feel like any sort of compromise. We both said yes, of course. This makes sense because we want all the kids involved. Not day home. Just an observation, your fiancé sees this as her wedding, not our wedding. Honestly, if it were me, and I may be just way too petty, I would tell her that either Bryn is in as co-flower girl, or none of your fiancé's brothers-in-law or groomsmen. Just replace them with friends or co-workers. But again, just an observation. If this is your fiancé's reaction, good luck, buddy. For real, she already took over both halves of the bridal party, so the least she can do is give him a co-flower girl. If my fiancé tried to dictate my groomsmen, that would be a real deal breaker for me. I might allow one if I actually liked him enough. The way I see it, my groomsmen are mine, her bridesmaids are hers, and unless there is something serious, we don't really get much of a say in that. I already made it clear to my girlfriend who I'm talking marriage with, that my best friend and his wife will both be standing up for me. She's so excited to get a matching suit with her husband, and I don't care how anyone's family reacts. I won't dictate her side and she won't dictate mine. Now for the update. Okay, wow. Thank you to everyone who reached out. This morning, my fiancé and I sat down to talk about the wedding in general. I brought up Bryn and Aubrey. My fiancé just kept parroting, "It's tradition, let Aubrey have the spotlight." She shot down compromise after compromise. Aubrey walks first, Bryn blows bubbles or holds a sign, etc. Finally, my fiancé was honest. She doesn't want Bryn in our wedding because Bryn has Down syndrome. She said everyone will be looking at her, taking pity, etc. Turns out it wasn't about a spotlight on Aubrey, but my freaking fiancé. I told her to screw herself, called her ableist, and said don't worry, there won't be a spotlight to steal anymore because there's no wedding. I've left our apartment, staying at my sister's and playing with Bryn. My phone has been blowing up with texts and calls from my fiancé. Magically, she's ready to compromise now. I need time, but I'm likely done. Y'all were right. Didn't see that coming. I just thought she wanted her niece because it's her niece and her wedding. Men usually get their wants overlooked in weddings. This is way worse. This wasn't innocent when she asked him to have her family in as groomsmen but couldn't have his sister. This woman is a piece of work. This was weird. Her brother as a groomsman, sure. But her brothers-in-law? What the heck is that? Oh wow. I read the original post this morning before the update. I didn't think it was a good sign that it made it over here so quickly. The comment from Opie that really stood out to me. My fiancé has had some jealousy issues with Bryn. I'm not as close with Aubrey, mainly because we don't see her much. My fiancé also feels I'm too close with Bryn. My sister is a single mom. Her husband passed and I'm the only male role model in Bryn's life. I go to her ballet recitals, taught her how to ride her trike, babysit her overnight. It never interferes with time with my fiancé, but she thinks it's weird. Wow, Opie sounds like a real stand-up guy to support his sister and his niece that way. He deserves a wife that loves his niece as much as he does, and that encourages him supporting his sister. I think before all the ableist views came out, she was still way out of line by insisting every person in her family should be in the wedding, but his two family members couldn't be. The truth propels her into a true villain instead of just a selfish bridezilla. He mentions in the comments that his fiancé is jealous of Denise as well, which is probably colored more from the ableist viewpoint, but still so freaking weird. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my dad what his fiancé said and causing wedding troubles? My 16 female mom passed away 8 years ago. I look just like her. Same hair, same eyes. With the right makeup, I resemble her exact face. I know that my dad loved my mom so much. Losing her hurt him deeply. We became tight-knit and my dad has been an awesome parent for me. I know I can't count on him for anything. He's about to get married to his girlfriend of 3 years. We had a rough patch a year and so ago when they began to talk about marriage. She didn't like that he introduced the idea to me rather than just ask her, and then let me find out/tell me together. She also didn't like that I didn't want to take any part in the wedding party. I'm happy for my dad. I truly am. And I like his girlfriend as a person, but she will never be my mother. And at 16, I hardly need to bond with someone that way. I'll spend the wedding taking care of my uncle's kids. He's paying me and I accepted. This wedding is really not a big deal for me. What I did accept is give a small speech about them and that's all. A week or so ago, my grandmother, Dad's mom, his fiancé and I went shopping to get something she wanted. I saw a dress that I liked for the wedding and so we went to the store so I could try it on. It was an olive dress that matched my hair nicely. I'm a ginger. They complimented me and my grandma said that I looked like my mother because she wore that color so much. Just a small comment. We moved on and that was all. Then 2 days ago, my dad's fiancé came to me and asked if I was willing to dye my hair or wear a wig for the wedding. I was taken aback because WTF? I said no questions asked. But she said she didn't want people telling me I looked like my mother at her wedding. I said no, and I asked her to get out of my room because it wasn't gonna happen. As soon as my dad came back from work, I told him what happened earlier and that it made me feel uncomfortable. I went to stay with my uncle and they talked, and the wedding was paused because they fought. Now his fiancé's family is blaming me because I caused this problem by refusing to compromise to a bride's request. I'm feeling guilty because I didn't mean for this to happen. But sometimes when I try to talk to his fiancé about things I didn't like and how it's made me feel, she treats me as a brat who wants to get her way. So I rather tell my dad and have him talk to her. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Her request was so petty and out of line it isn't even funny. If your father has any sense at all, he will tell his fiancé to kick rocks. It really took me by surprise, because she has never been like this and has never shown any animosity toward my mom or her memory. She has even said she loves my hair. It was weird, to be honest. She's never been this way before because she's been putting on an act. This is showing that she's insecure and jealous over you and your mother. Not the a-hole. You didn't cause this. She did. Her insecurities and jealousy about your mom surfaced, and she made a really unreasonable request. It's right that the wedding has been put on hold for now. She has some stuff to work through. Not the a-hole times 1000. Next, she'll be asking you to have plastic surgery and look like herself. I have a wonderful friend who is a second wife. The kids her husband had were 14, 16, 19, 24 when they married. Her husband had a wonderful portrait of the family over the fireplace and their mother was in that portrait. At the engagement dinner, the groom's boss's wife said, "OMG, you need to remove that painting." She said it loud and in almost a scream. My friend ran over and said, "No, don't you dare take that portrait down. That is their mother." I wouldn't love a man who stopped loving his children's mother just because she died. In that moment, his children surrounded her and knew they had a second mother who would love them. And she does. I hope your father doesn't marry this selfish woman and finds one who understands the heart can make room for new loves without destroying the old love. When my stepmom married my dad, our mother had been dead for about 5 years. Stepmom found shoe boxes full of pictures in the attic. Family pictures with my sister and me, our mother, dad, and grandparents. She made photo albums and put them in the living room. When Dad passed away 50+ years later, she arranged for us all to meet at a cemetery so some of his ashes could be interred with our mothers. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for accidentally announcing my elopement the day of my sister's wedding? My husband, 34 male, and I, 29 female, eloped in late June. Neither of us had ever dreamed of a big wedding. We fell in love with the opposite concept, which was doing it privately and getting to keep that special memory, something just between us two. We had plans to throw a party around our 1-year anniversary so our families could celebrate with us then. So far, we hadn't told my side of the family that we had tied a knot. We live in a few hours away from them and wanted to be able to tell them in person rather than over the phone, but hadn't gotten a chance so far. My sister, 27 female, got married yesterday, traditional wedding style. We drove down Friday afternoon and said our hellos, but kept to ourselves for the most part and let her and her bridal party do their thing. She was focused on a million other things, and rings on mine and my husband's fingers were the last thing on her mind, as they were for us. Being married almost 2 months means wearing those rings has just become second nature. I don't take it off, and I hardly remember him wearing it unless someone points it out to me. The next morning, we were invited to have breakfast with my sister, my mother, and her bridal party. To make a long story short, my mom noticed mine and my husband's wedding bands and asked if they were what she thought they were. We attempted to change the course of the conversation without outright lying, but my mother kept pushing until we finally admitted that yes, we had gotten married back in June. My sister got very angry and asked my husband and I to leave breakfast. We apologized profusely, but she held her ground. The rest of the day went off nicely, but we did ask members of the bridal party if she was still angry, and they said yes, and that she thought we had worn the ring specifically to steal the light of her big day. My husband and I are obviously very embarrassed, but we don't fully believe the onus falls on us here. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole. Sorry, I don't believe for a second you didn't have one thought between the two of you that wearing wedding bands wouldn't attract questions. Look, it's fine to elope. It's fine to have a small wedding. It's not okay to announce hours before a sibling's wedding that you eloped. That's just awkward for everyone, and attention-grabbing. You could have left your wedding bands at home or told people in advance. It's one thing to elope, but it's another to not even bother mentioning it to family. Why keep being married a secret? Hard agree in all points here. You're the a-hole, OP. It was the day after the wedding, and only because the mother pushed the question, even when OP and her husband tried to steer the conversation in a different direction. I disagree, so I'm going with not the a-hole. You're the a-hole. It sounds like you didn't mean it, but wearing your wedding rings effectively is announcing your marriage, and letting your family see them for the first time on your sister's wedding day is definitely going to upset her. We don't fully believe the onus falls on us here. Why? Exactly this. It is OP's fault here, and the sister's reaction is justified. You're the a-hole, OP. We don't fully believe the onus falls on us here. Who does the onus fall on then? Was your sister supposed to put in the invite? If anyone has gotten secretly married, please leave your secret wedding rings at home? You're the a-hole. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not inviting my parents to my wedding because of how they treat my sisters? Some backstory. I'm 30 female, the oldest of 5. I have 3 full siblings, male 27, female 25, Juliet 20, and 1 half-sister, Charlotte 7. 8 years ago, my dad had an affair. That woman got pregnant and didn't want anything to do with the baby, so she gave her to my parents. My parents didn't want anything to do with her, so my sisters and I were always expected to take care of Charlotte, and she's always had her own room in my house because I babysat overnight so often. 5 years ago, my parents moved into a 2-bedroom condo. My dad had 1 room and my mom had the other. Juliet and Charlotte were supposed to share the living room. Charlotte climbed onto the balcony and fell once. She got out of the condo and was found wandering around the neighborhood multiple times. Heck, Juliet would take her and they'd take a bus/walk to my place. Needless to say, after a couple months, they both moved in with me. Charlotte was okay after falling from the balcony in case anyone was worried. And 4 years ago, I adopted both girls. Right before Juliet started college, our parents told her they used her college fund to pay for their condo. So instead of going to her dream school, she went to community college and goes to a nearby state school and I pay her tuition. Community college is free in our area, and a state school isn't too expensive. Plus, she has some scholarships to help cover it. Charlotte is such a happy little girl. She's the kind of kid that'll run up to you and jump into your arms when you visit before running outside to pick you some flowers. I love dressing her up and doing her hair and our talks when I walk her home from school and our ice cream dates. She's the perfect kid. My parents want nothing to do with Charlotte while they barely like talking to Juliet, but at least they'll say happy birthday and get her a Christmas gift. Charlotte hasn't seen them since she was 3 and doesn't even know who they are. As far as she knows, I'm her only mommy. I have been dating Henry for 3 years. He adores Charlotte and is an amazing stepdad. He moved in a few months ago and we're getting married in October. We posted in our social medias about the wedding, and my parents texted me asking when they should expect their invitation. I told them they're not invited. Juliet is my maid of honor, and she doesn't want to see them, and I don't want them around Charlotte. They tried telling me that their relationship with Juliet or Charlotte is none of my business, and that they were good parents to me, so they deserve to be invited to my wedding. I told them it is my business because I adopted them, and I said they weren't good parents because they forced me to become a mom at 23 when Charlotte was born. Now my mom is upset that I'm blaming her for my dad's mistakes, and I have other family members telling me I should invite them to keep the peace, so I wanted to know if I was the a-hole. Not the a-hole. First of all, your sisters are incredibly lucky to have you. That said, you absolutely are not obligated to invite these people to your wedding. Good on you for putting the feelings of Juliet and Charlotte above those of anyone else. You certainly didn't learn that from your parents. Exactly. I wish Opie and their family all the best. The parents sound like horrible people. I don't even understand why Opie would entertain them. What is the point? I would pay them dust. Not the a-hole. Weddings are about family. Real family. I got some grief when I didn't invite certain people to my wedding, but it was worth it to have a good celebration. It truly was one of the best days of my life, and I strongly believe it's because I didn't invite any a-holes. My parents also thought their friends would be invited. That was a whole other argument. Am I the a-hole for frightening my nephew and making him traumatized for life? I had a cookout at my place on the 4th, but my 13-year-old daughter's Switch goes missing. I contacted family members, and my wife's sister, Kara, said my daughter gave it as a gift to her 6-year-old son, Stevie, for his upcoming birthday. I asked my daughter, and she said it wasn't true. She let Stevie use it so they could all play Mario Kart together, and it went missing after the cookout. My daughter is upset, and I call Kara back, who insists that the Switch is now Stevie's, and my daughter is too old to play anyways or will outgrow it soon, and it was a gift to Stevie. She calls my daughter an Indian giver. After this, I contacted my uncle, who is a police officer, and he watches Kara's house, and a few of his friends go over and threaten to arrest Steve and Kara over stolen property. Kara reluctantly gives it back after an incident with the officer that she could have been arrested for. They warned Stevie that next time he steals, both him and his mom will go to jail, then let my sister-in-law go without incident. Sister-in-law says Stevie has been crying nonstop and having issues sleeping because he doesn't want to go to jail, and blaming me and my family for traumatizing her son. My response might have been heartless because it was, I guess he'll never steal again. And Kara thinks he'll be traumatized for life for making a big deal over his stupid game. Now for the top comments. Your sister-in-law got caught stealing and is trying to deflect by telling you her son is traumatized. She thought you would just back down and let her steal from your daughter. Not the a-hole. So you think the 6-year-old is secretly doing just fine after an honest-to-God police officer came to his house and told him that he was going to take him and his mom to jail? He's 6. It was his mom that turned a little kid moment of taking something you like into genuine theft. Hope he didn't traumatize the kid. The sister-in-law did by being a thief who was justifiably visited by the police. It sounds like sister-in-law also did something verging on arrestable, based on how Opie describes it. I suspect that was actually what may have traumatized the kid. I'm never the first to defend cops, But in a situation like this, where it's some family member's goofy dispute with a kid involved, no cop is busting down the door going full code. It's, now listen kiddo, stealing is bad. It's why I have this job. Please don't make me do paperwork. They can be real pricks, but they are still people, not ghouls. Sister-in-law going bonkers though, will make cops do as cops do. Unexpected situations are where cops do notably poorly. Not a-hole. Stevie has bigger problems, like having a mother who likes to steal. Completely agreed. His mom is something else. I think people are glossing over that apparently there was an incident that Kara instigated with the officer that she could have gotten arrested for. Listen, sending the cops after a 6-year-old is nuts, but that's literally all Kara's fault. She refused to return it and instead insulted OP's kid. If OP had tried to retrieve it himself, he could have been arrested for trespassing or assault if he tried to go inside a house to get it. Kara reacted so belligerently to the officers that it could have ended in like actual jail time for her, other than the theft, and still was very reluctant. And only the threat of imminent arrest made her cough it up. She stole the switch by enabling her son keeping it. Maybe she told him to take it. So it's actually appropriate to call the cops on someone who robs you. Again, what else was OP supposed to do at that point? Once someone says, yeah, I have your stuff. No, I won't return it. Pound sand, loser. It actually is police time, sorry. Yes, it was the nuclear option and completely over the top, and that's all in Kara for taking it there. She really only has herself to blame. Next story. Am I the a-hole for making sister-in-law / her husband so uncomfortable that they left without eating? I'm 30 female and a mom of 4. I'm a doctor and my husband is a firefighter. Every year, my husband and I host a family barbecue the weekend after the 4th. Most of us are essential workers, so we can't celebrate on the 4th. My sister-in-law, a police dispatcher, and her husband, unemployed and has been for 2 years, have always been a bit of an annoyance to me personally. Her husband is an old-school Southern hillbilly who wears the man of the house title without earning it, as in thinking women and children are beneath him, and practically snaps his fingers at his wife to be doted on. Whatever, just not my cup of tea. My sister-in-law doesn't seem to mind. They are childless, but they do have 3 dogs that they bring everywhere with them. Well, we get the barbecue going and whatever, and everything is going fine, surprisingly. Usually by this time, sister-in-law and her husband are diving off into an argument about who are you voting for? At this point, they were being tame, thank God. But then dinner is ready, and I call on all the kids to come get in a line so I can serve them. Sister-in-law immediately goes running over to get to the front of the line for a plate for her husband, per usual, as they live in this 50s-style men should eat first attitude. I told her to go sit down and he would be served after the children have eaten. This is an argument every single year. She scoffs at me and walks off, slamming herself on a chair and crossing her arms as her husband is shaking his head. I ignore it. I don't care about offending them anymore. But then their unruly dogs are trying to take food off the kids' plates. So I yell at the dogs and then turn to my sister-in-law and her husband and say, get your dogs away from the kids now, or they can go sit their butts in the car and wait for you there. You will not be bringing them next year. My sister-in-law throws her plate across the table, calls for her dogs and goes to the vehicle to, I assume, put them up. But then she comes back and yells at her husband to, let's freaking go. We obviously aren't welcome here. Mother-in-law tries to protest, but I say, no, let them leave. Tired of dealing with this every freaking year. And yell to them, don't bother coming back. My husband is backing me 100%. Mother-in-law, not so much. She says I'm ridiculous for embarrassing them and making them feel unwelcome every year. Edited to add, they are fully aware that kids eat first in my house. I shouldn't have to repeat this every single year. As for the dogs, I told them they were only welcome here if they were leashed and away from all the food. They brought the leashes, but let their dogs roam with the leashes still on them as soon as they got their plates. Their leashes were attached while diving into the children's dishes. As for me being a doctor and a mom of 4, because apparently people can't fathom this, I graduated at 17, went to college at 18. I worked through each pregnancy, while attending mostly online college and taking time off for maternity leave. I had my doctorate by the time I was 28. Not a-hole. They are terrible guests. Were. Now they're probably banned from OP's house. Not a-hole. They seemed shocked that they were expected to follow very reasonable and totally predictable norms at your gatherings. They don't need to come then. Seems just right. Mother-in-law can host them instead if she wants to. Not a-hole. Why do people always think that their dogs are welcome with them everywhere they go? Not all of us want to put up with your slobbering, smelly balls of allergies. Keep the dogs at home, or don't come at all. Especially if the dogs will be around kids and food. I won't tolerate dogs that jump or lunge for food, especially from kids. That's how someone gets bitten or knocked over. Not a-hole. Exactly. Although I could see some better ways this could have been handled. It does seem reasonable to just not invite them if they're constantly being disrespectful and disruptive. If you don't want to invite them to anything in the future, I'd probably include, in writing, the rules of your event. Guests will be humans only. Please leave all pets at home. And house rules are that children eat first before any adults. That gives you an easier ground to kick them out if they mess around. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister-in-law to maybe stop eating so much? My sister-in-law, 43 female, and her kid, 12 female, moved in with us. My husband, myself, and our 3 kids, 2 months ago. She's going through a divorce, and her ex took everything. The kid is not his, and a prenup was signed. We told her to just worry about her own food, as I didn't like the idea of eating together due to their history with food. I don't know how to put it nicely, so I guess I will go blunt. Her and her kid never stop eating. They both have severe health issues, as both of them combined are over 600 pounds and live a fat, positive life. Now it's none of my business, but when it comes to the kid, it's messed up. I don't care what anyone says. When a 12-year-old is pushing 220 pounds and has a doctor breathing down your neck, it's time for a change versus pushing body positivity. The kid is a great girl, but just her by herself could easily eat enough to feed 4 grown men who haven't eaten all day. So that was my stipulation, that they buy their own food and cook everything separate. I even cleaned out our entire pantry to give them for their own food space. Well, my kids and I needed a break and took off for a week to a resort. My husband didn't want to go, as he didn't want to leave them in our home unattended, but encouraged us to get out of here because we were pretty fed up with the company. I just spent almost $400 on food prior to leaving, so our freezer was full and so was our cupboards. This would feed us, me, husband, kids, for easily 2 weeks. Well, I got home last night and all of the food is gone. Every single bit of it. I know for a fact it wasn't my husband. He works 14 to 16-hour days and usually buys takeout on his way home when I'm not there, so he can just go to sleep when he gets back. I look into my sister-in-law's pantry, and all her food is gone too, which was full when I left. I immediately question it, and my sister-in-law apologizes and said her and her kid got hungry, and her legs hurt too much to drive to the store. I said, why the heck didn't you just get grocery delivery? And she said, I didn't think you would mind. So I snapped and said, obviously I freaking mind. You and your kid just ate well over $800 worth of food in a freaking week. $400 of it being mine, which you will be reimbursing me for. Maybe stop eating so damn much. And I walk off. Now she's mad at me and crying wolf to anyone who will listen for me fat shaming her and her kid. Now for the top comments. I'm gonna get downvote to hell, but I don't care. Not a-hole. Your sister-in-law is abusing her child. Yes, she has a problem, but she is also responsible for her and for her child. So she needs to start doing something, and stop eating so damn much would be a good option. I agree wholeheartedly. It's dangerous for a child to be that size. The sister-in-law and her child probably should get counseling to see why they overeat. It could be a plethora of reasons why. OP is not a-hole. I'd be upset too. Groceries are so expensive nowadays. Fat shaming needs to come back into vogue for situations like this. Wow, what she's doing to herself is bad, but her kid though? That's abuse. On your dime. No, just no. Not a-hole, OP. Not a-hole. I would be freaking mad about this. Groceries are expensive AF right now, and that's just very inconsiderate. She could have at least replenished everything but decided to give you some BS excuse. Also, what she's doing to her kid is abuse. Plain and simple. When I was in grad school, my housemates would leave for the weekend and I'd get high and eat all her snacks. I'd go to the store before she got back and replace all and more. I'd always text her saying I was eating her stash and would replace them. Even if she had like 2 Oreos left, I'd buy a whole new pack for her. Not a-hole. Your sister-in-law literally stole from your family because she felt entitled to. Quite frankly, either she gives you the money or she finds another place to live. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not taking in my nephew while my brother is in prison? For background, I have an older brother, Mark, and both our parents have sadly passed. Mark has a son, Nick, who's 8 years old. Mom is not present. We have no other family since we come from a long line of small family trees. Mark and I keep in touch, but we are by no means close. I also have my wonderful husband, Jax. Jax and I both make quite good money and could potentially both retire now if we wanted. We are, however, both passionate about the career projects we are each working on. We have also chosen to be child-free, and he had a snip some years ago. We have quite a nice house and a place we love that we share with our 4 dogs. Mark has over the years had different issues with money, drug issues, and running with the wrong crowd. I've paid off some of his debt, around $60,000, over the years to keep him afloat, plus arranged for help with drug issues. We live in different ends of the country, however, and I have no real relationship with him nor his son. As far as I'm aware, he has little to no real support system, but since he's highly destructive, I've chosen to keep my distance. However, Mark recently reached out to let me know he's going to prison for 7+ years, and he would be sending a nephew out to stay with me. I've heard nothing about this and was completely taken aback. I haven't heard from Mark in over a year. I let him know that he could do no such thing, and I couldn't just take nephew in for years on end. However, nephew is set to go into foster care if Mark can't find someone to take him. I understand his horrible predicament, but Jax and I have no desire to bring a child into our care, and we feel royally unfit to care for this child. Mark remarked we both have more than enough time, money, and space to care for a child and gave me great grief for saying no. I offered full financial aid for nephew's expenses if Mark could find someone else trusted to take him in, but he said there's no one else willing in his life. I felt my offer was more than fair, and my heart breaks for their situation, especially my nephew, but I simply cannot provide him a good life, a place where he is wholeheartedly desired. These are exactly the same reasons husband and I are child-free, and why I declined being nephew's godmother back when he was born. Mark's lawyer has, however, contacted us along with Mark, continuously pressuring us to take him in. Apparently, nephew is also neurodivergent and quite a handful, and Mark's lawyer suspects he won't have success in foster placements. The things said about me are, however, very harsh and hurtful, and I'm wondering if I'm actually directly in the wrong here? Not a-hole. That's an outrageous demand on your brother's part, not to mention the lawyer. Even if the kid wasn't likely to be an unmanageable disaster, why in the world would you want to put up with it? Not your problem, to put it mildly. I am irate at how much Mark has failed his son, and then he tries to somehow make it out to be OP's fault? She has no obligation to put her life on pause, and Mark should have done everything in his power to get his act together for his son. Was thinking this, adding to the fact that Mark is not seemingly on good terms with OP either, doesn't sound great. Avoiding godmother status as well should already be a statement that she's not interested in the literal situation being presented to her. I feel awful for the kid because he's not at all responsible for any of this. Shame on Mark for just shoving his failure into his sister. I do not blame OP either because I would not be ready or willing to handle the situation myself either. Also, children will sense when they know they're not wanted, even if they may not always understand what's going on. It will cause problems as well. Not a-hole. You have chosen the life for you and have made an already generous offer to try and assist. Although your nephew is in a horrible spot here, it doesn't make you responsible for all the bridges your brother has burned or the countless poor decisions made that got them here. I feel for you and your nephew and hope a resolution is reached. The resolution that's going to be reached is that the nephew is screwed. That doesn't make OP an a-hole, but let's not pretend it's going to be rainbows and sunshine for the now effectively orphaned nephew. Honestly, if OP has the money, why not send a kid to a boarding school? It may be cruel, but it seems like the best solution if they don't want a kid themselves. Kid is out of the way for 9 months of the year and only home for the holidays. He's young, but some boarding schools take kids that young in the US.